And Diane mentioned some of this earlier. So the wood stove emissions are regulated under Section 111 of the Clean Air Act by EPA's new source performance standards. I'm going to throw out some numbers and dates, and I'll try to be clear. So in 1988, the commercial manufacturers, the folks that are making these and selling them on a retail level, were given 5 years to design stoves with emission limits less than 4.5 grams of PM 2.5 per hour. So back in '88, when we started thinking about wood stove emissions, the idea was that we would give emission limits of 4.5 grams of PM 2.5 per hour coming out of one of these stoves. And the reason they give them 5 years is because it takes a while for folks to be able to figure out, how to design it. And then since it's a commercial operation, they have to figure out how they're going to build it and manufacture it at a commercial level. Then again in 2015 was the update. In 2015 we updated that standard, and we gave the manufacturers another 5 years to be able to make their design changes. And we went from the 4.5 grams of PM 2.5 to 2 grams of 2.5 PM per hour. And that is what we refer to as the 2020 standard. So it actually went through the rulemaking process in 2015. We gave them 5 years to do it. Now we have a 2020 standard. And that's what I think you may run into if you go to a commercial retail outlet for a wood stove. Is you'll see the 2020 standard, whether or not this stove meets the 2020 standard or not. Because after 2020, it's the retail stores that will be regulated to sell only those stoves that are able to meet this 2.0. Now, any of the existing or any stoves that are in place or being used, it's kind of a grandfather clause. EPA is not going to come out and yank the stove out of your house or anything like that. They're not going to require you to upgrade to that level either. And you might be able to go out to Deary and buy a stove off the back of a pickup truck, and it might not have that 2020 standard stamped onto the back, but it's the retail, commercial sales that are being regulated. So with the result of this new 2020 standard, what we're looking at is stoves that will create about 70% less PM 2.5 per hour. About 50% more energy efficient, and they'll use about 30% less wood for the same amount of heat. The old PM 2.5 pollution from the old stoves is about the same as what you would get out of 5 school buses, the old diesel school buses. I don't know, that's another program that we have in our air quality program, is retrofitting diesel engines on school buses. And it's been very successful. But it's one of the comparisons that we're able to make with these old stoves. And you're talking to somebody, when I was young, I hate to say it like that, but there was a time years ago, I lived over on the coast in Vancouver, and I would go through about 6 cords of wood a year. Over there on the coast, you'd even burn wood in June. And you damp it down really, really good, and out comes the smoke. And believe it or not, it wasn't necessarily the smoke that made me change as much as the work. It was a tremendous amount of work. I remember the kids who were in the playpen. My wife was driving the truck, and I was choking the logs as we were driving them up to cut them up and buck them up for the stove. And it just, I hate to say it, but it was too much work for me. But the new stoves are going to be more efficient. Now, the way that we increase the efficiency and the reduction in emissions is basically from burning the smoke a second time in a much hotter environment. So it's very similar to what you might know about a catalytic converter on the exhaust of your car. In fact, one of the methods that you'll see in these new stoves is a catalytic combustion. So basically, if you recall the old wood stove where you put your wood in one end, you've got a damper up at the top, and you've got your air vent at the bottom, what you'll have now is basically a baffle between the top and your firebox, and that'll create a hot spot. So that when the smoke travels through that hot spot before it goes up the chimney, it takes a second hotter burn. They'll also have stoves that actually have a catalytic combustion feature that's built into the stove. And there's a variety of ways they can do this. Sometimes they put it into where that baffle is. Sometimes they'll put it closer to where the chimney outlet, where the stovepipe is. But it's basically a way to accelerate the oxidation and burn, and you'll basically take that airspace and go from 400 or 500 degrees up to 1,000 or 1,500 degrees. So as that smoke goes through that second hot burn, it'll burn out a lot of what we call the NOx, or the nitric type gases, and even the small particles, and turns that into more of a carbon dioxide and basically vapor. So that's the efficiency, is basically a second burn, just like on a catalytic converter in the car. Because if you think about the way the old stoves were, is the wood would go in the firebox, and the smoke would come out the stovepipe. And so the only thing they've done basically is put a space in there to let it warm up, so that the smoke actually goes through a heated chamber before it goes out the top. And that's how they burn off the rest of that material that's still in the smoke. And it's just it's an oxidation process. And I think when I was on the phone with Diane, she mentioned retrofit. And you may find ways to be able to retrofit. One of them that I saw was an easy fixture that was in the stovepipe. Between the stove and the stovepipe was a small catalytic converter that has its own air intake. But I caution everybody to think that with that kind of a setup, it really is going to take some expertise on the installation of that kind of a system to get it to run. And again, the rules and regulations are focused on the commercial manufacturer and the retail sales. The regulations aren't focused on folks that have a stove. Nobody's going to come knocking on your door and tell you that you have to retrofit your stove or add a catalytic converter to your stove.
John?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you mentioned the emissions that were being oxidized, and cruising through the EPA site, and I'm not sure, but having a background as a chemist, it's interesting to know that burning wood, some of those emissions contain benzene, which is carcinogenic, and toluene, which is carcinogenic. So that second oxidation process is really important for reducing those toxic emissions, and that you would never see in the air.
Absolutely. It's the volatile organic compounds, the VOCs, we tend to, in this particular presentation, we tend to brush over some of that, because with the wood stove regulations in Idaho State, we focus on our particulate matter. We really don't have a lot of regulatory control over the VOCs on wood stoves.